This season preview is brought to you by Manscaped's brand new Ultra Premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. This luxurious lather cleanses and nourishes in just one step. Using coconut water, green tea, and aloe, this non-greasy daily formula is naturally hydrating and rich in antioxidants to revitalize the look and feel of your hair. So head on over to manscaped.com and use the promo code SACCITY for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. The new Ultra Premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner from Manscaped. Take care of hair everywhere.
The Detroit Lions is our next team on our season preview breakdown. I'm going to take this one right off the bat because this is the team that I've been super intrigued by, and the offensive side of the football and what it's going to look like this year. And it's going to be a lot of DeAndre Swift, a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and a lot of TJ Hawkinson. And we're talking about guys on the offensive side of the football that are explosive. We saw what Amon-Ra St. Brown was able to do last year towards the end of the season, being ranked as one of the top receivers in football at the end of last year. And when DeAndre Swift was healthy, he was arguably a top 5 running back in the NFL. I think that what Dan Campbell wants to do is run the football. He wants to create that physical. We already know he's a physical, tough guy that played tight end but loved to be on the line of scrimmage. I think he wants to create that running game and make sure that they start with the smash mouth football and create play action and explosive plays off of that. And I think that means a lot of DeAndre Swift, a lot of Jamal Williams, and then you find guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, and heaven forbid Jameson Williams come back healthy in the middle of the season to break off some of those explosive plays. This is a build for the future, and I think he said it best on his Hard Knocks show. This is, I have a plan, guys. Just trust me. Like, I just want you to trust me. And he got really emotional about that. He has a plan. He sees where he wants this team to be, 3 years down the road. And if they give him that opportunity, I really do believe he can get this team to where they want to go, which is competing again with opportunities at the playoffs and beyond. So I'm really looking forward to this offense establishing a physical brand of football. And it starts up front with that offensive line, who's a really, really good offensive line. A really good running backs, and then the play action game, which Jared Goff is an experienced quarterback. He does know how to play off of that. And I think it starts there, and I look for Detroit to be not only more competitive than they were last year, because they were competitive last year, but start turning some of those competitive games into wins for their team.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. This is a team that that is changing their identity, wants to be seen differently than they have been for the past, which is basically a losing culture. And I think Dan Campbell's doing it right. And I know it's professional, so what I'm about to say is like, I don't give a damn about fun, but he's starting it off right way. They're bringing in happiness and hype back into the culture and being a place you want to be, being a team you want to play for. And that immediately makes you go in a little bit harder for your people that you're playing with. And once that comes in, you see the talent that they're also surrounding you with, that gives you a little bit of extra hype. So I think Dan Campbell's doing it correctly. And I mean, to be where they are with Jared Goff, we've made fun of him, but we've also always given him the respect. He was a number 1 pick, and he knows how to play the game of football. He's just not quote unquote special. And if you can see that you have special talent around Jared Goff, well, if they're just unfortunate in the win column this year, now you're talking about another possibility of an early pick with a young special quarterback coming in. And now you're talking about a team that once they learn the ropes, like you said, about 2 or 3 years down the road, this is a team that could be back in contention for at least, a nice playoff run. So I think you're spot on with where you're looking for this offense to be this season.
And when people make fun of or kind of mock the Dan Campbell, like people have to realize today's NFL, the coaches that are players coaches that can get hype with their players, that can relate to their players, that knows what it feels like to be in a locker room and maybe be part of a franchise that's been shit for so long. To change a culture is so difficult. And I think he's done a good job relating to those players and telling those players, and not only telling them, but showing them that he actually cares about their futures and what they're going to be and what kind of team they want to have, despite not winning games. It's not all about the winning of the games. It's like he's showing that he actually cares about them as people. And in today's society, people like that. I don't care what anybody says. This is not the same old football, like the tough, rough and tough men that don't want, it's all about the job and get the job done. Like, people want to feel like they can be understood. And I think he's doing that as a coach. And I think there's something special about that. So to mock that, I think is just ridiculous. I always give him credit for that. Excuse me. And I think that is what's going to breed him success as a head coach, because he's going to earn the respect of the players in today's game. And Nothing means more than that. When players respect you as a leader, you are going to be far more successful than if they don't. So I love me some Dan Campbell. I'll always have his back. Now on the other side of the ball, they really, really struggled defensively last year. One of the worst defenses in football. What kind of season do we expect from that defense when they add pieces like Aiden Hutchinson? So can we expect him specifically to have a really nice year one? And does that impact their defense, obviously, to where they want to get?
I'm excited for Aiden Hutchinson. You know, this is a guy we talked about, and everyone talked about possibly being the first overall pick. Didn't happen that way. The Jags went with Trayvon Walker. And at that point, the Detroit Lions sprinted up to the podium for what could be a generational talent at the pass rushing position. Aiden Hutchinson, the guy who recorded 16 and a half sacks in Michigan his last year, has been compared to both of the Bosa brothers. You've seen what they can do in the NFL. I don't know if his first season is going to be like that. I think he's going to be talented. I think he's going to make a difference. I see him being somewhere between 7 and 10 sacks. I think he has a potential for double-digit sacks, but I think expectations should be a little tempered. I think he still has a learning curve to get to, but his talent, his body, his burst off the ball is undeniable. We've already seen it in some of these early preseason games. We've already seen the way he carries himself as a rookie professional. So him specifically, everyone's talking rookie of the year. There's a lot of great defensive players drafted in this year's draft. So I think that kind of has to kind of come down a little bit until we see what he's looking like in the season. And as far as the rest of the defense, I don't know that he's at a place yet that translates to the defense feeding off of him. He's a high energy guy. He plays with a lot of passion, a lot of emotion. And of course, football players love that. But there's vets on that team. They've been around for a minute. They know the throes of the NFL. They know the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of the season. And I don't know if he's at that spot yet to kind of feed into the defense where it all just translates starting with him. I think he can get there, but I don't think that's until season 2 or 3, unless he's just, as promised, ridiculous again, double-digit sacks, can't get by him, nobody can stop him. And I think he's going to have to grow into that in the NFL level.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a defense that gave up, 6,500 yards last year, 4th worst in the league. I don't know that they improved enough defensively to make any kind of waves on that side of the football, which means their offense is going to have to score. They're going to have to, create time of possession and create some turnovers to allow them some extra possessions. But I do think Aiden Hutchinson helps tremendously. We talk about defense. We talk about edge rushers, getting to the quarterback to allow your back end to make plays and not have to cover as long. The one word that I was disappointed you didn't mention, you talked about it, but you didn't really mention this particular word. You talked about him playing hard, is Aiden Hutchinson's motor. He doesn't stop. And I love motors. I love guys that are relentless. And watching him in the preseason, that's what I noticed. Like, that to me jumps off the tape. That to me is a football player that is always going to have a chance to be successful because he is relentless. The play is not over until the play is over with him. He doesn't stop, and that motor is something that I think is special. And I think that's what will translate into success for him. And you're right. I don't know that he gets to 8, 9, 10 sacks, but I don't think he has to. I think when we talk about defensive pass rushers, we get enamored with sack numbers, but it's about creating pressures. I mean, we talked about guys that Aaron Donald doesn't always have 20 sacks, but he leads the league in quarterback pressures and he's disrupting throws. And those things make your defense successful. So I look for him to do some of those things, and I look for Detroit to feed off of that. Maybe not from a vocal leadership standpoint, but look, and I'm not comparing the two. Micah Parsons wasn't a vocal leader for the Dallas Cowboys last year. You know how he led? Because he wreaked havoc on the football field. And despite what people may think, Micah Parsons alone changed the entire Dallas Cowboys defense because of what he was able to do individually, allowed other guys to trust that, man, I could just do my job and he's going to do his and we're going to be good. A lot of times what happens with bad defenses is you try to overcompensate for other people missing assignments, other people not getting to the quarterback, other people being in the wrong place. When you focus on your job individually, then collectively you can be one unit and success can happen. So it's possible that Aiden Hutchinson has a season that can turn around a Detroit defense or at least make them better, maybe they get to middle of the road and that's so much better than last year. Maybe they win some of those games. So I do look for him to have an impact, but you're right. It's not going to be something where he's going to come in and all of a sudden be some vocal leader and change the way the Lions are playing football. Like, he just has to do his job. And in turn, the Lions might see some more success as a result from that.
Well, I think it's kind of what you said. They just didn't improve enough as an entire defensive squad. And like, if the Micah Parsons thing is really nice, and I get what you're saying, I feel like that's a little bit different when you're talking about an edge rusher. Like, yes, that is probably the most important part of the defense. Don't get me wrong. Get to the quarterback. We need that. But, like, at the same time, if the quarterback isn't got to, Micah Parsons has the ability to be in the area when the ball's tipped or thrown. If Aiden Hutchinson doesn't get to the quarterback and he gets the ball off, well, is the linebacker where he needs to be? Is the cornerback and the safety where they need to be? Or is somebody running across the middle of the field on a dig route and now has another 20 yards that he can turn up the field? So it does. I think he has the ability to impact games. I think you'll see 4 or 5 games where that defense is really inspired. I don't know that it will last consistently throughout the season. And like you said, you agreed with me on that point, but that's kind of where my thought process is as the individual to impact the entirety of the defense.
Yeah. Let's get to one thing I'm really watching for this team. I'm looking for year number 4 from TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson is a player that we talk about him wanting to be one of the elite tight ends in football, and you can see it. He's never had more than 67 catches. His best year was 2020 when he had 700 yards. But we're looking for him to take that next step as to the Mark Andrews level, to the Travis Kelce's, the George Kittles, the Kyle Pitts level after his rookie season, and it just hasn't quite got there yet. I think it's in him. Maybe it's a little bit to do with quarterback play, but he had Matt Stafford there, and he didn't do it. He had Jared Goff there last year, and he really didn't do it. So I'm looking for him to take that next step and become one of the elite tight ends, the real elite tight ends in football. And I do think he has what it takes, but I need him to start making more plays. I need him to start, opening up the field a little bit more, maybe with an Amon-Ra St. Brown now and a DeAndre Swift and more weapons for Detroit. You find more open coverage for TJ Hawkinson, seeing that he doesn't have to now just be that one guy that's on the field that everybody's looking at. So I'm really looking for year number 4 for him to be his quote unquote breakout year. I think 80 plus catches, close to 1,000 yards is something that he has to have in order for this Detroit offense to be truly successful.
Yeah. He's on not as far as drops, but he's on that Evan Ingram line right now. Like, he was supposed to be so great, and it's just not really, it hasn't panned out. And we know there's things that have led to that, of course, but I'm with you. Like, he has to be a weapon for them. They've depended on that, and it hasn't come out too. So, but Jamison Williams gets in there too. Now you're talking about 2 wideouts and some open space for a tight end.
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely should open some space up. I look for him to take advantage of that. Let's get to the Lions prop bets. Locked and loaded once again. We have under 6.5 wins plus money, and then the other 2 are under 1,400.5 yards for Swift total yards, over 7.5 sacks, which is right around the number we were just talking, minus 125. If you had to take a bet, AJ, where are you putting your money?
I'm going under 6.5 wins. I don't think they can get to 7. I think 6 will be hard. I have them a little lower than that too. So good offense, a lot of weapons, but it boils down to the entirety of the defense. And, we've talked about that a few times. I don't think their defense will keep them winning games. I don't think they'll protect their W's as much as cost them W's. So I'm going to go under 6.5 wins. We'll lock that in and feel pretty decent about it this season. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Lion Pride.
Sorry, Lion Pride. Hear the roar. This one's actually pretty easy for me. And yeah, I know it's going to be barring health, something along the lines of that. But DeAndre Swift was kind of a guy that didn't play a full complement of snaps last year. Got hurt, missed some time, didn't start all the games. But, I think this year he's a workhorse back. I think 1,400 yards, total yards between rushing and receiving is a piece of cake for DeAndre Swift. I think he runs for 1,200, catches another 600, and we're talking 1,800 yards for a guy that's explosive. This is this is Alvin Kamara. This is a guy that can put up those kind of numbers, and he was he was doing well last year before the injury. They scaled him back. I think this is the easiest bet. And I mean, it is minus money, of course. They think he's probably going over as well. But I'm taking the over on the 1,400 yards for DeAndre Swift. I just don't think that's high enough. If he's healthy for full complement of snaps, I think he's well over 1,600 yards total.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, you mentioned it. Let's do it. You said less than 6.5 wins. Let me get my handy dandy cheat sheet here. Tell us why. First of all, why you have them under 6.5 wins, and then what games on the schedule could the Lions possibly get that would shock us?
Okay, so I have them at 5-12. The games I think they could win that would shock you. I think they can catch a New England, but that's probably not a shocker to you. But New England has a pretty good defense, and that could, if their offense is clicking on all cylinders, not
definitely not a shocker to me.
But see, and then they may get one GB in Week 18. That may not be a shocker because it's Week 18, and Green Bay will probably be something at like 14-3 and not playing anybody that matters. And then if you want to get one last shocker, I will take the Minnesota game in that back end as well. That's 3 wins. The other 2 just kind of sprinkled there with Chicago somewhere in there. Probably.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised at what I did here because now I'm looking at my schedule, and I had them going 5-12 as well. I'll be honest. But I look at the schedule, and originally I had them beating Washington week 2, Seattle week 4, then not getting a win again until Jacksonville, and then Jacksonville, the Jets, and Chicago again. And those were the 5 wins. Then I'm looking at their schedule, and I'm like, you know what? They could beat Chicago in Chicago. They might. Mm-hmm. They could beat a Carolina team. I think there's more wins there. I think there's a few more wins there.
I give you the Carolina because it's so late in the season, but honestly, if they're mostly healthy, they're not beating a Carolina team at that point in time. That's go time for Carolina. You're looking at a Lions team that's playing for pride.
I'll be honest. I'm gonna go on the record. Hear the roar, hear the prowl. I think the Lions are a little bit underrated this year. I'm going to give them a little bit more wins. I'm going to say that the Lions go 7-10. And I may be way off base here, but I think they're going to win. I think they're going to shock some teams. I think they'll beat the Vikings one time. Yeah. I think they're going to shock some teams. I think the Detroit Lions go 7-10 this year. I'm changing it right here on the record. Detroit Lions 7-10.
See what happens when you get a show with AJ and Aaron. I about called you Vinny and Dylan. That's two different teams that gain 2 wins live on the show. That's not an everyday occurrence, people. That's why you tune into the Sac City.
Usually I'm consistent. All right. So with the Detroit Lions, on the power ranking side of things, I think those 2 wins don't really do much here. I still think they're not a very good football team when you compare them to the other football teams in the NFL. You have them at 31, which is, I think, just disrespectful. Because you have them, I'm assuming you have them worse than your Atlanta Falcons, and that is definitely not true.
It's not true.
They would slap the Atlanta Falcons around. I have them at 27. I have them at 27. So we are going to split the difference here, and we are going to say 29 is where we're going to have the Detroit Lions. And if that's conflicting with somebody we already have at 29, then we will adjust it. But as of right now, the Detroit Lions are 29 on our preseason power ranking.